y'all are doing all right. I want to review a couple of concepts that are summarized in chapter 16 before we move into our discussion about heroism. So I'll post another video after this that's going to talk more specifically about heroism. But Zimbardo, throughout the Lucifer Effect, has talked about three concepts: the person, the situation, and the system. I want to make sure we really understand those. We talked about them while we were in class. We probably haven't talked about them quite enough since we've been quarantined. So we're looking at this layering effect. General social psychologists look at the individual and the situation that they find themselves in and how the situation can influence individual behavior. Zimbardo is interested in that third layer about the system, those people that are in power, and how they can influence behaviors, by changing the situations that we find ourselves in, and that individuals within those situations then respond to the stimuli that the system has created. So there's kind of this, it's like an onion, right? There's this layering that happens. To begin this chapter, he talks a little bit about those three things. So just again to review, we have the system, which is the people that are in power, that have the ability to create situations. They have the ability to create structures within society. They can organize groups that exist within those institutions. They're able to create rules and regulations that everybody else within those situations has to adhere to. And then there's the situations themselves that we find ourselves in, whether it's a classroom situation or whether it's an army unit or a police reserve battalion like we talked about in class, whether it's just a normal 9-to-5 job that you go to. You find yourself within the framework of those situations that are created outside of those situations. When people that you work for, if you have a boss, and that boss says, well, that decision's above my pay grade, they're referring to the people that are creating the situation, that are running the system. And then underneath the situation are all of us. We're all individuals, and we're working within those situations, trying to do our best to adhere to the rules and regulations and policies. And then we become subject to all of the influences that we've talked about, whether it's conformity or obedience or ideological impulses. All of those things work within this framework of system, situation, and person. So that's really important to understand. In this chapter, Zimbardo also talks about a 10-step program for resisting the impact of undesirable social influence. So I want to kind of briefly go over those. If we were in class, I'd have you guys break into groups and talk about each of these steps, because I think they're interesting. And it provides us with a kind of a guidebook for how we might not fall into some of these situations that are created by systems that then elicit bad behavior from us. So I'll try and do this quickly. But the first of these 10 steps is I made a mistake. We have to be willing to admit when we make mistakes. We can't blame it on other people. We have to take responsibility for that. We have to be mindful. We have to be mindful of what's going on around us. We have to be mindful of other people's needs. We have to be mindful of our own shortcomings and idiosyncrasies, as well as others. We have to be responsible. The third step, we have to be responsible for our acts. So the decisions and actions that we make, we need to take responsibility for those. It's not somebody else's authority that's making us do something, right? Remember the Milgram shock experiment where the dude says, I want to stop. As long as you take responsibility, though, I'll keep going. No, you take responsibility. I am the me, the best I can be. Don't let somebody de-individuate you. Don't lose who you are, even if you're in a group. Make sure you know who you are and be that person and understand what that means. I respect just authority, but rebel against unjust authority. That one's pretty self-explanatory. I want group acceptance, but value my independence. This deals with conformity. Sure, you want to belong to the group, but make sure you're independent, that you be you. I will be more frame vigilant. We need to be aware of kind of the context of where we are. Who's creating the context? Who's creating the situation? Be vigilant in understanding how the situation you're in is being framed. I will balance my time perspective. Realize that now is now. You've made commitments in the past and you have future liabilities. You got to keep that time perspective in your mind so that as you act in the moment, you're thinking about how that's going to affect your future and how that relates to things that you've committed to in the past. I will not sacrifice personal or civic freedoms for the illusion of security. Again, that one's pretty self-explanatory. And lastly, I can oppose unjust systems. You can. It might take a lot longer than you think it's going to take in order for those systems to become dismantled, but you can certainly oppose those. You can teach others to oppose those. Last thing I want to read, and then I'll be done on this video. First, be discouraged from venal sins and small transgressions, such as cheating, lying, gossiping, spreading rumors, laughing at racist or sexist jokes, teasing, or bullying. They become stepping stones to more serious falls from grace. They serve as many facilitators for thinking and acting destructively against your fellow creatures. Second, moderate your in-group biases. That means accepting that your group is special, but at the same time, respecting the diversity that other groups offer. Fully appreciate the wonder of human variety and its variabilities. Assuming such a perspective will help you to reduce group biases that lead to derogating others, to prejudice and stereotyping, and to the evils of dehumanization. I'll post another video shortly about heroism from chapter 16. Be good.